Sometimes evil doesn't come with a warning. It hides in plain sight, wearing the face of a neighbor, a stranger, even someone trusted. And when it finally reveals itself, the damage is already done. Entire communities are left shaken. Families are torn apart. And the rest of us are left asking, how could this happen? In today's case, we're not just looking at a series of horrific crimes. We're exploring the darkness that drives them and the terrifying possibility that one evil act can inspire another. This video is intended for educational and storytelling purposes. All the information shared is based on publicly available sources and online research. It is not meant to disrespect any individuals, victims, or families mentioned. Our goal is to shed light on the circumstances, raise awareness, and ensure that stories like this are not forgotten. South Africa is a country of striking beauty, deep cultural diversity, and complex history. Located at the southern tip of the African continent, it's a land where towering mountains meet rugged coastlines, where sprawling savannas give way to bustling modern cities. From the vibrant townships of Soweto to the world-renowned vineyards of the Cape Winelands, every corner of South Africa tells a story. Nicknamed the Rainbow Nation, South Africa is home to over 60 million people in 11 official languages. It is a place where cultures collide, shaped by indigenous heritage, colonial influence, and a long struggle for freedom. Its three capital cities, Pretoria, Cape Town, and Bloemfontein, reflect the country's political and judicial complexity. South Africa is rich in natural resources, particularly gold, diamonds, and platinum. It boasts some of the most diverse wildlife on Earth, protected in national parks like Kruger and Addo Elephant Park. It's also the birthplace of global icons like Nelson Mandela, whose legacy of reconciliation still echoes through its streets. Yet beneath the surface, South Africa grapples with lingering inequalities, high crime rates, and economic disparity, a reminder that its journey, though inspiring, is far from complete. It is a country of contrasts, pain and progress, beauty and brutality, hope and hardship, all coexisting in one of the most fascinating nations on earth. In the heart of post-apartheid South Africa, a country rebuilding itself from decades of pain, another form of terror quietly emerged. Between 1994 and 1995, the bodies of dozens of women began turning up in the provinces of Atteridgeville, Boksburg, and Cleveland. They had all been raped, strangled, and dumped in open fields. This was the work of a man the media would later dub the ABC Killer. But behind the headline was a trail of shattered lives, grieving families, and a nation forced to confront evil again. It began quietly, as these things often do. In Atteridgeville, just west of Pretoria, the body of a young woman was discovered in a grassy field in January 1995. She had been raped and strangled with her own underwear. There were signs she had fought for her life. Anna was just 25, a quiet, intelligent woman who had recently lost her job. She told her sister she was going to meet someone offering her work with a charity organization. She never came back. A jogger found her decomposing body 3 days later. A month later, another woman was found in almost identical circumstances. Her name was Elizabeth LaRue. She too had been lured with the promise of a job interview. By now, police knew they had a serial predator, but they had no idea just how many victims there were. Martha Mbele, 27, strangled with pantyhose Serendaba, 31, found near a power station Thandiwe Kumalo, 22. Missing for 3 weeks, at least 10 women were killed in Atteridgeville alone. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the killing stopped, but only briefly. The killer resurfaced, this time in Boksburg. The pattern was identical. Women were lured with job offers, raped, then strangled. The bodies were often posed, dumped like garbage, left to rot in tall grass. Ellen Mbele, 23, was engaged and planning her wedding. She left home excited. Someone had offered her a chance to work with abused children. Her body was found 6 days later. Her wedding ring was missing. The South African police formed a special task team. They called the killer the ABC Strangler, named after Atteridgeville, Boksburg, and Cleveland, the three locations where victims were found. Detectives worked day and night. They noticed patterns. The killer had a method, a signature. He used pantyhose or underwear to strangle his victims. He used fake charity job offers. He often left the bodies near industrial zones. In one case, a victim had told her friends she was meeting a man named Moses who worked for a youth charity. Police traced several similar reports. They began focusing on job agencies and nonprofits operating in the region. A woman named Sophie Masilo survived. She had grown suspicious of a man calling himself Moses. When she refused to get in his car, he became aggressive. She escaped and reported him. Her report helped police zero in on a former convict, Moses Sithole. Born in 1964 in Vosloorus, Moses Sithole was one of 5 children. His father died when he was young. His mother abandoned the children at an orphanage. Sithole later claimed he was abused there. As an adult, he worked odd jobs, some in labor, others in charity outreach. But he also had a dark side. In 1989, Sithole was arrested for rape. He served 6 years in prison and was released in 1994, just as South Africa embraced its new democracy. Just as Nelson Mandela became president, Sithole began to kill. Criminologists would later describe Sithole as organized, intelligent, and sadistic. He used charm to lure women. He often photographed them before killing. He sometimes called the victims' families after the murder, just to taunt them. Police tracked Sithole to his brother's house in Johannesburg. When they attempted to arrest him, Sithole pulled a machete and attacked. He was shot in the leg and stomach, but survived. Inside his home, police found women's clothing, ID books of missing victims, and a notebook listing fake job interviews. In 1997, Moses Sithole stood trial for 38 murders, 40 rapes, and 6 counts of robbery. The courtroom was filled with grieving families. Justice David Curlewis sentenced him to 2,410 years in prison. He declared Sithole a cold, calculating killer without remorse. He will not be eligible for parole until 2927. Today, Moses Sithole remains behind bars in a maximum security prison. His crimes scarred communities, destroyed families, and reminded South Africa of another war being fought. Not political, but personal. The war for safety, for justice, for dignity. In South Africa, it was Moses Sithole, the ABC Strangler. Just across the border in the small kingdom of Swaziland, a man embarked on a reign of terror that left more than 40 women and many of their unborn children dead. Separated by borders, but united in darkness, these men revealed how calculated evil can be. Today, we step into the heart of Swaziland to uncover the story of its most feared serial killer. This is the case of David Simelane. Nestled between South Africa and Mozambique lies the small, landlocked kingdom of Swaziland, today officially known as Eswatini. A nation of rolling hills, green valleys, and ancient customs, Swaziland is Africa's last absolute monarchy. It's a place where tradition is deeply rooted in everyday life, and respect for elders, culture, and the crown is paramount. With a population of just over 1 million, it is often seen as peaceful and serene, a stark contrast to what investigators would uncover in its forests and valleys in the early 2000s. It began with a horrifying discovery. In April 2000, near the Lusishwana River, police discovered the decomposed body of a woman. Not long after, another body surfaced, then another. Before long, the count reached 10, and the number kept climbing. The killings were brutal. Many victims had been strangled with their own clothing. Others were bound, gagged, and left to die in isolated forested areas. Some were pregnant, their unborn babies killed along with them. What began as a criminal investigation quickly turned into a full-scale manhunt for a serial killer. Victim 1, found near Manzini, identified only through DNA testing, 7 months pregnant. Victim 7, skeletal remains found in a pit, hands tied with shoelaces. Victim 1921, discovered together, believed to have been lured on the same day. Victim 35, a young woman last seen boarding a bus to meet a man offering employment. Many victims had been promised jobs in town. Some thought they were headed for interviews in Mbaban or Manzini. Instead, they were being led to their deaths. Police noticed a clear pattern. Victims were women aged between 15 and 35. Most were found naked or partially clothed. Many had been missing for weeks or months. All had been lured from towns or rural bus ranks. Over time, nearly 45 bodies were recovered from various locations, most in shallow graves or open forest glades. Some had been decapitated, others reduced to bones. A key witness, a woman who had escaped, told police about a man named David, who offered her a job, then became aggressive. She managed to escape before he could strike. This tip would become the turning point in the investigation. David Thabo Simelane was born in 1956 in Swaziland. A former soldier and ex-convict, Simelane had a disturbing history of violence. In 1991, he was convicted of rape and robbery, serving several years in prison. Upon release, he harbored a deep resentment toward women, believing they were to blame for his imprisonment. That anger would fuel his deadly spree. Experts would later describe Simelane as highly intelligent but emotionally cold. He claimed he was punishing women and had no remorse. He had created a system: approach, lure, isolate, kill. Some say he saw himself as a sort of executioner. David Simelane was finally arrested in February 2001 near Pigs Peak after a tip-off. He confessed to killing at least 45 women, claiming he couldn't remember all their names. He led police to the sites where he had buried victims in mass graves, sometimes as many as 4 in one pit. He even returned with officers to specific scenes, identifying where he had left bodies, recalling details with chilling precision. In one piece of police video, Simelane is seen pointing to burial sites casually, as if discussing a farming routine. David Simelane stood trial in 2004 in the Mbaban High Court. The case lasted over a year. He was charged with 34 counts of murder, although investigators believe the true number was over 70. This was premeditated, cold-blooded murder committed with deliberate cruelty. In April 2011, David Simelane was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to death by hanging, still legal in Eswatini, though rarely carried out. David Simelane remains on death row at Matsafa Maximum Security Prison. The families of his victims, many still without full closure, live on with the weight of loss and unanswered questions. Simelane never expressed remorse. He once said, "Women are dangerous. They hurt me first." But it was he who became the danger, the executioner in the forest, the man who turned the peaceful valleys of Swaziland into silent graves. This is more than the story of a killer. It's the story of the forgotten, the missing, and those left behind, and the chilling reminder that even in the quietest corners of the world, monsters can walk among us. And now I want to hear from you. Do you think David Simelane was a copycat? Was he inspired by Moses Sithole? Or are the similarities just a haunting coincidence? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. I chose to connect these two cases not to glorify the killers, but because the patterns are too disturbing to ignore. Still, this story, like all the ones we cover, is not about them. It's about the victims. We remember them, we speak their names, and we acknowledge their pain. To the families of the victims, our hearts go out to you. We cannot begin to imagine your loss, but we stand with you in remembrance, And we hope this video honors the memory of your loved ones. If you found this video informative or meaningful, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment below if there's another case you'd like me to look into. Stay safe, take care, and stay vigilant. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.